everyone. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Topher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a weird and wild episode of. I don't even know what I was going to say. Anyway, we got Mark Lyon here, big time dealer of meteorites. I'm a big time educator of meteorites, and we got something exciting that we want to talk about. Actually, you know what? I should be wearing my hat. There we go. We're going to be talking about Meteorite Studies. It's a not a new web page, but a very powerful web page. And literally, I've been learning about it myself because those who have been with us in the past know that Sue and I, for 2 years, we talked about launching our own web page, Meteorite Vault, and it was a place where you could safely buy meteorites and get educated on meteorites. Now, my focus has gone other ways, but I'm so happy that I can actually back a friend who has a project basically is the same thing almost. I'm not going to say it's the same thing, but it piggybacks and intertwines really well. Can you explain what Meteorite Studies is and why a collector, a novice, or a pro collector would want to go to the webpage? And you can scoot on in to get
Okay.
on camera.
Well, so first of all, when I discuss what it is, what I'm really discussing is what it is so far. We
Yes.
have kind of really, really broad goals, and luckily we sort of have the financing available to reach the goals. We really want to be a one-stop place for a meteorite community that doesn't want to engage in the social media things. Because right now, you really have two options. You have the option of being on social media, which is actually pretty problematic in terms of being able to get real information about meteorites from professionals, or you have the option to sit alone on your computer and read educational websites and not engage in the community. So we're really spending a lot of time trying to be a one-stop place where you can really feel like you're part of a community, at the same time, have a lot of sort of rigorous things going on so that you're actually getting the things you need to do and not have all of the hassle that goes with these. So in terms of what we've done so far, is we're really concentrating on the basic structure of what we need to expand, and the two main things that have to be taken care of first is the ability for people to look up any meteorite or any meteorite classification type and get accurate, interesting, engaging information about that meteorite. So the first part, it's actually divided into two parts right now. We have meteorite classification database and we have the specimens. So in terms of the meteorite classification database, which we really haven't been concentrating on quite as much. We've got like big plans for it, but the main thing that's important for is for the structure of being able to know what every meteorite is. It's basically like the meteorite bulletin,
Broke it down.
but it's an essential step, to developing a lot of sort of new, more interesting things. So basically, in terms of that, you can look up any meteorite, you can get the basic information about the meteorite. We're developing the background of the meteorite. We're about to allow discussions about any specific meteorite.
Some of the pains that this is going to solve. When you talk about meteorites are great, but like Facebook,
Yes.
social media sucks about it because as soon as anyone knows that you're a meteorite dealer, collector, importer, curator, whatever, you get a million people asking you for rock IDs.
Mm-hmm.
You get a million people asking you to buy their pebbles, and it's a drain. It's a suck. It gets me down. This is going to be a a cloud. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
like siloed. There's the people there are how are you vetting anyone and from being like that?
Right. So this is going to be organized as a place for real serious discussions without all the drama and everything else that comes along with Facebook. And, rather than sort of just choosing who we view to be like a trusted member or not, we're actually spending a lot of time to work out an automated system where people can progress through levels based on their contribution to the community.
This is cool.
And, so it starts out with, like when you've just started, you can look at a lot of stuff. You can't actually make a lot of changes, You can, upload specimens, do things that, do establish trust. But pretty soon you'll be able to sort of engage in the discussions about meteorites. Once you reach a certain level of trust, you can actually put tags on specimens and do a lot of things that'll be helpful for the site as a whole, such as, hey, this specimen looks like it has fusion crust. Let me add the fusion crust tag to it.
That's another thing I want to, like, if I was doing some research or doing a show or whatever on fluted regmaglyphs, you're saying that we can eventually be trusted to go there and tag other people's pictures and say, this is a great example of fluted regmaglyphs.
Yes. Or you can argue with someone who claims it is, but it's not.
Okay.
Which is actually really important to the part that I'm kind of trying to advertise right now, which is the specimen database.
Yes.
And the reason is, so the thing is we have like broad plans, but we have to concentrate on making sure we're doing very specific things really well and then move on to more things. The thing that we're really concentrating right now on is the specimen database, which has about 3,000 uploads right now, and they're absolutely beautiful. Probably about 12,000 photos.
It just started, by the way.
So 3,000 specimens, about 12,000 photos. And this is actually going to be like really, really important because everybody, when they talk about meteorites, one of their first concerns is this authentic?
Yep.
Where did it come from? And all of those things. So for our specimen database, basically people can upload their collections. As soon as they upload a meteorite, it's given an actual Meteorite Studies number.
Basic serial number.
Right. And so then a couple of things happen. First of all, it's all public. And once we get the member status, if anybody sort of disagrees and says, well, that's not what it's supposed to be, they can flag it. So anything that's been on the site for long enough, you can kind of assume has been looked up and picked over by a lot of meteorite experts.
Self-regulating by experts and collectors.
The second thing they can do is if they ever transfer the specimen to somebody else, they can actually get a transfer number and sort of say, I've sold, donated, whatever the specimen is not mine anymore. Maybe they know who it belongs to, maybe they don't, but then it locks the specimen. Yep. Nobody can alter it at that point. They can write updates, but they can't alter the original person's record. So it establishes ironclad pure provenance so that if anybody looks up that specimen number, they can be absolutely certain that that specimen is the specimen that it's purported to be.
That is one of the huge, huge things that was going to be a major pillar of Meteorite Vault. The Meteorite Vault serial number, the master number. You're calling it a specimen number, and it's amazing because you can physically. We have had people on our crew here. We have one guy who loaded his entire collection up there, but his entire collection is now housed online. So if he wanted to, he can go anywhere and show off his collection. It's remarkable. I'm a real big fan of that. And the great thing about it is the type of people who are going to be going to this web page and living there and acting there. It's going to be self-regulating. It's not going to be like an eBay. eBay is the absolute worst as far as anyone could put anything up, and there's no one in charge.
Well, so knowing the meteorite community and knowing how much the meteorite community cares about authenticity, simply being able to have a piece on the site for very long and have the meteorite community not flag it is going to be pretty good evidence that it probably is what it's purported to be. And we're actually, the other thing that I'm excited about is we're actually in phase 2, we're working on establishing and verifying past provenance. So people can already say what the provenance of a meteorite is, but of course, then I mean, not that we would assume that people would lie, but you are on some level taking their word for it. But in phase two, the people who are named as previous owners can actually
Wow,
verify
that's
that
great.
that was in fact
Yeah.
their specimen, which is and they're going to have incentive to verify it because if they verify yes that specimen was actually mine in the past, well, they actually have two things. They can verify it if somebody sort of states that it's theirs, or if they happen upon a meteorite and say, hey,
That one.
this was mine, it can go the opposite direction. They can ask the current owner to verify that they used to be the owner of the meteorite. And then it actually, the meteorite then exists in two places. It exists in somebody's current collection and in the other person's past meteorite collection, so you're able to actually trace the meteorite
This is
both
the
ways.
first time that I know of that it's almost like an online database provenance for meteorites, and it's a huge step up because there's really nothing in existence right now. In fact, most collectors may not even have their own system for collecting pictures, putting in a Google spreadsheet or however they want to do it. So this is actually a really good chance for people to go out and load their specimens on the web page. It's very easy to load a specimen. It takes like 4 or 5 minutes. It's not a detailed process, right?
It also even creates a QR code. So your specimen has a
Wow.
QR code. So like literally, if you put that on your specimen card, someone can just like verify on their phone immediately that the specimen that they're buying is exactly the specimen that's there online, and they can immediately request the transfer code, and they can put
Exactly.
it into their
Yeah,
account.
that's another thing that we talk about on the side is if I have a piece in my collection and I list it for sale, only very select people are allowed to sell on the platform currently. But if I list a piece for sale and Travis buys it, I can issue a transfer of ownership or he can request a transfer of ownership. It's a two-way street. Wow.
Yeah. I want to say, by the way, in terms of who's allowed to sell, and things can change at some point in the future. But right now, we're not monetizing it. We're not even asking for any money from people who are selling. It's a free thing that we're providing right now. We're just saying, hey, we would like you to be a seller on the site, and we're not even necessarily doing it for like the biggest dealers necessarily. We're just doing it for the dealers who we feel will be the most help to the community, who will upload the best specimens with the best photographs, who are
Test
the best
well,
influencers, who
test
will
the
be
web
able
page,
to,
report what broke.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're really, and we've only allowed, so I have a couple people who are selling on my behalf. So technically they're official sellers, but it's of my material. But aside from that, currently we've only invited two people, Topher
Thank you,
and
sir.
Roberto
Yeah.
Vargas. And as I said, it was not because they're like the biggest dealers out there, but because we feel like they're the ones who would help the site
Yeah.
the most.
We're
Beautiful
aligned. Yeah.
photographs, diverse specimens, PR, being able to
Yeah.
advertise it
I
well.
have the education point of view and like Roberto, if anyone here knows Roberto and you guys do, like he is the witness fall collector. He has all the labels to go with it. Like he is the provenance king. And in fact, if you go to our channel and search for the word provenance, we made a video about God, it feels like 20 years ago. It felt like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, about how key and important provenance is to meteorites. So if you haven't watched that video, I recommend as soon as this is over, put that one on your next list. Roberto plays a big key part in that video, is why I mention it, because he talks about his American witnessed fall collection and the history and provenance of them that gives them, like, they're on the book covers. Like, even the COA and the piece are on the book covers. So, Roberto is really the guy you wanted to go to for the provenance point of view. So, I'm really glad you partnered with him. And I'm really glad that we're partnering together because hopefully I'm the go-to guy for education. We have, Sean, and we have Chris out there, Dr. Sanders
Mhm.
crushing it. But to have this all in one place where it's an interactive and fun and interesting. Like, I'm thinking of one way I'm going to use it. When I go out there and I want to get a rare meteorite, I can look at the meteorite and look at all kinds of other pictures of it, and it's not going to be ones on the MetBull. It's going to be a totally
Mhm.
different thing. These are going so I'm super excited
Mhm.
about it. We have a few hands up. Do you mind taking a few questions?
Sure, no problem.
Um, I know that Travis, this may not be the best timing for your question because we're as Mark said, we're focusing or he's focusing on the bread and butter, the skeletal. But
Mhm.
you're forward thinking, Travis. What do you have, man?
So first of all, thank you, Mark. I love the site. I've been putting my collection up there since it first went live, and I think it's got a good future, right? Especially with being able to track the meteorite through all of the different provenances. So thank you for putting this together. It's got great things. You've explained some of the ideas you have going forward in the future. Is there you kind of hit on the monetization. Is there future plans to monetize the site beyond what we're doing right now with it?
So in terms of the monetization, first of all, except that I'm personally using the site as my own selling platform among like having other sellers, and I will personally make money that way. Any monetization that happens in the site that's generated by the site itself, the plan is for it to go immediately back into the construction of the site. Now, there's actually two aspects of the construction of the site. There's the structure, which is being handled by the web development company, and then there's the content. And I really want to be able to provide stipends, for like people who are developing the content rather than just asking people to volunteer. But really the focus of any monetization would be on future site development. But realistically speaking, I feel like at some point, if we're going to allow a large group of sellers or things like that, except for, sort of a small group of sellers that, are kind of going to be part of the overall structure who, as I said, are not being monetized. I don't want to suddenly say, oh, now you have to start paying money. That's definitely not what I want to do. I want to be like, upfront about it. We would probably collect something, from sellers if we ever opened it up to, allowing basically anybody to become a seller. But part of the rationale for that is not actually to make money. It's a means of being able to move the sellers to uploading the type of stuff that we really want them to upload. For example, rather than just, having them pay a certain, percentage of what they, upload or sell or whatever, I'd like to charge a specific amount to sellers to upload things for sale just so they don't, deluge the site with, a bunch of like little $10 or $20 items that are
Yeah,
all the same.
yeah.
So
That's
the
not what this
monetization,
site's
yeah,
about. Yeah.
right. The
That's
monetization would
nice.
be partially to make money for future development, but partially to sort of be able to control better what's happening on the site. I also feel like literally charging $20 to, cause people to have a certain status. It's not that we really need the $20, but it's a good way of avoiding having a bunch of people, going on for
Yeah.
free just to cause mischief.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, as a new collector who's only been doing this for a couple of months, I have enjoyed going onto the site and looking through all the different specimens on there and getting some of the knowledge off of it. It's very helpful, along with what Topher's doing here. I think it's fantastic for new people like I am into the hobby. So yeah, thank you
Awesome.
very much.
Good to know, Travis. And Travis is like you said, he's new, but he's been coming to the hangouts. He's been participating. He's I don't know if he's a bona fide crew member, but he's grabbing on. He's the rollover of that.
Well, we'll keep climbing the ladder as much as we can. Yeah, like I said, I'm brand new. I've only been 3 months ago is when I started buying my first meteorite. I've got 30 specimens up on the site right now. So
That's
it's
awesome.
awesome.
Perfect. Yeah, and we're always, especially right now at the beginning, we're always looking for people to upload more specimens. I want to make it clear also, by the way, if you upload specimens, it helps the site in several ways. First of all, it obviously, your collection's up there, but the site also uses the specimens that you upload as part of the second part, which is the meteorite search. So if you upload things as part of your collection, then when people search for a meteorite, they can see what you've uploaded as an example of that meteorite, which is actually really important because, most of the people who want to research something want to see what it looks like. So, anything you can do, to get yourself to upload nice photos is extremely helpful, especially right now when we're just beginning.
And if I'm talking out of school, correct me, okay? The main thrust isn't sales. The idea is get some traffic, get the page used, test it slowly, roll things out that work, and do it maniacally, I
Uh,
guess. But literally, we don't.
Methodol,
Yeah,
not maniacally, but
maniac. Yeah,
no, don't do anything maniacally. I don't recommend it.
my words escape me, dude. See,
Yeah.
I always nail everyone, and so I'm getting nailed now. This is good.
Yes. No. Okay. So to be clear, like I guess because by trade I've always been a meteorite dealer, so it's hard for me not to talk about sales. But no, it's not a sales site. But at the same time, it's not a site that shies away from the commercial aspect because it's supposed to be a one-stop site
It's the
for like
bridge.
anything anybody wants to do for meteorites. And realistically speaking, like a huge portion of the people who want to research meteorites want to own a sample. So it's not that we're like really fixated on sales, it's that I feel like a lot of the educational sites and other sites out there, they conspicuously avoid it because they think it's somehow distasteful to engage in it. So what we have now is we have a bunch of strictly commercial sites and a bunch of strictly educational sites, but nothing that really bridges the gap
Yep.
between the two. And there's like a really fertile valley of things you can do.
Fertile Valley.
Yes, in terms of, combining the two.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for that. Art, you have a question, my man?
Yes, I don't want to go off the rails here, Mark, but
I love going off the rails. Don't worry about it.
I would like to see included, besides the meteorite, a thin section with the bifringent colors. If that's something possible, is that something that the owner of the actual meteorite displaying would have to provide?
Okay, well, so first of all, we have somewhere between 100 and 200 thin sections already uploaded on the site. So if you look at the traits, no, not the traits, the type of meteorite specimen, thin
Yep.
section is already identified as one of the types.
Mhm.
And we already have had a couple hundred uploads, maybe 150. So anyway, we do already have a decent amount of thin
Yep.
sections uploaded, and we encourage people to upload more.
Am I wrong in thinking that this is going to be something like relating to like Rockhounds, the mindat.org, with the information that's available to Rockhounds from that mindat.org?
The best thing that I could compare the platform to is sort of a combination of the MetBull and the
Mhm.
Encyclopedia of Meteorites. The
Yeah.
main difference is that the MetBull kind of is using what it does as an end within itself, which is
Mhm.
sort of provide the very scientific, dry information to kind of give the basic info about any particular meteorite classification. And the Encyclopedia of Meteorites also is viewing itself as an end in and of itself, in that it's providing a great place for people to upload their collections, whereas we're sort of combining the two as a structure in order to see what sort of interesting things we can build off of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it is a Fertile Valley.
yes.
Thanks, Art. I
I think I
appreciate
said fertile and not fervent, but yes.
Well,
Wow.
I
Oh my
compliment
God.
you, and I think
Fervent and
Well,
maniacal.
he is no longer ever going to be called a special guest. He's going to be Pat Brown has his hand up, and so does Chris Sanders. So, Pat, what do you got?
Yeah, Mark, thank you very much for doing this, and I really appreciate the level of professionality on the site and the emphasis on good quality photos. I just recently came across a situation where we were looking at a meteorite trying to figure out what class it might be, and it was a giant pain in the butt to try and find decent quality photos of that. And so I'm very glad that you're pushing, photographic quality, and that you've expanded it to slices and to thin sections as well. So I think you're doing everything exactly right. It's all about building content now, and I'm chomping at the bit for when you add the next layer of some of the deeper science, not to displace the MetBull, but to enhance it and make it easier for an amateur to get their arms around. So, is that where you see the science part of it going?
There was a site called Meteorite Studies. This is what I forgot to mention, which I absolutely have to mention.
I was going to say the history of the site.
Yeah. So
Whoa.
as I was so when I first got into meteorites, I had two real sources of information. I had the MetBull, which I used because it was structured in such a way I could look up any particular meteorite. And there was a site by David Weir called Meteorite Studies, which for the meteorites that actually existed in the site, it gave a lot more detailed, interesting information, a lot better photos. It was just better formatted, and it was a much better experience if you actually wanted to learn about a meteorite. David Weir, and I don't know exactly why, he lost control of the site
Hmm.
and it went up for auction. And I kind of contacted him. I'm like, hey, like, why don't you want to purchase your domain name back? And he basically said, well, I just feel like I don't need it anymore. But he suggested, hey, like maybe, you could buy it and you could make use of it somehow. And he gave me permission to use his material.
That's the
So the
key.
first real goal was to actually find a way to incorporate the huge amount of information he had on meteorites, but to do it in a very structured, easily accessible way. So
Hmm.
that's the second tab, the background. And then, the third tab on any meteorite is going to be, it's not there yet, it's going to be the discussion of the meteorite by, kind of trusted members who have updates and new things to say about the particular meteorite, which, as I said, hopefully is going to be where a lot of the new science comes from rather than people arguing with each other about politics. We're gonna do a nice way to try to monitor that so the discussion of the meteorite is actually on a scientific level. As I said, the way we structured the site was specifically to sort of understand the hierarchy of meteorites and to be able to allow somebody who's a new member just kind of browsing to really, through navigating the site, gain an understanding of what each class and subclass of meteorite really is and what it means and its significance.
Hmm. Cool.
Last question, Chris Sanders. What
Oh,
do you have?
hey folks. Hey Mark, thanks for coming out. I know we had some discussions in Tucson, and as I'm learning more about kind of I kind of see this in a couple frames. One is obviously the educational information collection side, and then it sounds like there's some loose plans for like, trading and selling, and there may be some monetization and things happening and not happening there. So I want to play devil's advocate and ask a kind of a follow-up question. Like my background's computing and stuff, so what I know is data is power. So we are, effectively everybody's uploading to this site and it's creating this big repository of data and it's creating a lot of power here. And so the question is, so say good Mark Lion has a meteorite fall off the shelf and hit him in the head and he turns into evil Mark Lion, right? And there is then a lot of power with this data to do things and monetize it and to do who knows what else. If that's a concern, like tell me about like the leadership structure, the data structure, or the policy and privacy and all those things around that would like make me not worried about a thing like that happening.
Those who Chris spends a lot of time uh, in his photography, and it works really well. I spend time, mine doesn't work that well.
Mhm.
But for those who actually take really good photos, I mean, that's their intellectual property.
Yeah.
And they just like that was one of the questions I
No,
asked you
it's
when
an
I was in
extremely
Tucson.
again. I'm not saying it's not a legitimately concern. I think it's absolutely a legitimate concern. I'm just saying that right now that's
Yeah.
probably the best answer I have for you. I actually talked with, by the way, before I launched this, I talked with Sergey, who runs the Encyclopedia of Meteorites. It's not like I was like, hey, I'm going to do my own thing and ignore the
Mhm.
Encyclopedia of Meteorites. And I asked him about like his photos, and he basically said, well, I don't have ownership of the photos or the rights to sort of allow other people to use these photos. And he suggested that I ask sort of, independent, people who'd uploaded to the site, like if I can have the right to use their photos. And I've actually contacted a couple people. But yeah, I mean, I have no great answer for you. And I wish I had a better answer.
The crew, you guys might remember when Sue and I were working on the Meteorite Vault, we asked for your help on the glossary terms. I think we have close to 100 20-second videos of meteoritic glossary terms. As we discussed in Tucson, those are going to be loaded on
Mhm.
as part of the educational part of this web page. So just know that if you worked on those in the past and you helped us create those, they've been they've been put on desiccant for a while, but they're about to come out and be seen on the shelf. So
Mhm.
thank you all for your help on those. I did want to say that I spent some time, a couple hours actually, talking to the dev team when I was in Tucson. Uh, really strong team, and I also wanted to say, everyone here who's been watching us, you guys got the boring end of the stick because for however long we've been recording, you've just been looking at us. But everyone who's been watching it on YouTube has actually watching screen grabs, screen captures of stuff we're talking about. So kind of sucks to be here live, but there you have it. All right, Mark, anything else before we get out of here?
Oh, no, I'm good. Thanks a lot for listening. And remember, upload. First of all, become members of the site and upload all the specimens you can because the site doesn't work unless the community becomes involved.
Awesome. Appreciate that, man. Nice soundbite. Wow. We're out of here. Bye, guys.